not only do we all have problem clients, I kind of think we are sometimes the problem client ourselves for the people that we work with, right? Or raise your hand if you're never a problem client. All right, and don't raise your hand if you are a problem client. Raise your hand. I want to just get a sense of, how serious this problem is. So raise your hand if you have problem clients right now that you need to do something about. All right. Raise your hand if you've managed in your years of being in business to avoid problem clients by now. Good. A few of you. Awesome. And raise your hand if you have maybe one problem client that you're just holding on to because, I don't know, there's something about them that you kind of like. No one. I actually have one, and he's been emailing me all day. I told him I was going to be away, but he's emailing me. So, all right, let's talk about problem clients. So, let's see. Marketing Mentor is my consulting practice, and this topic is kind of close to my heart because I specialize in working with creative professionals who sometimes need special treatment and sometimes can be problem clients themselves. And as Ken was saying, I think it is important to be kind of politically correct about this, although when I was talking to people about the presentation in advance, they would say, oh, you're the one talking about crappy clients, you're the one talking about bad clients. There are lots of different ways to refer to these people. And I think also there are a lot of different types of problem clients, right? There's not just one type of problem client. So I want to start with, I'm not going to talk about marketing, but I want to start with marketing because I think that in a way it is the solution to avoiding problem clients. And the vicious cycle that I often see my clients getting into is kind of outlined here. So you get word of mouth, you get a lot of word of mouth, which is sometimes another way of saying taking whatever comes along, right? A little bit, but we're not going to call it that. We're going to call it word of mouth, and that's our marketing strategy. And so therefore you do no business development or very little. And then what happens is you become vulnerable and perhaps sometimes even at the mercy of these people who want to hire you. But you can't say no to them because you don't have any business development in process or a full pipeline. So you take them on, and these problem clients become problem clients. You saw the red flags, but you ignored them, or you said that it won't be that bad. And then you have no time for business development because you're putting out fires and dealing with these problem clients, and it is a vicious circle. This is what I see. So with that in mind, I want to make a distinction first and define what I mean by problem clients, right? Because there are problem clients, and then there are clients with problems. Or another way of saying that is there are bad clients and clients behaving badly. And those are two very different things. When I think of bad clients, I think of what Rick Webb said this morning. He called them sociopathically grumpy people. I wrote that down. I love that. Right? Because that is the abusive, dysfunctional person who basically brings trouble to the agency and trouble to your team and is really bad for the culture and is destructive and draining. In fact, I did an exit interview recently with an employee of one of my clients, and when I asked her why she was leaving, one of the main things she said was the big gorilla client kept dumping big jobs on us with unreasonable deadlines, and I just couldn't take it. That's why she was leaving. So I think we need to be careful about those bad clients and also about gorilla clients, by the way, but distinguish them from this other category, which I think is much larger and a little bit more subtle, of clients behaving badly. Because clients behaving badly, they're not bad people. They're not malicious. They are confused sometimes. They are behaving badly because of things that they perhaps have no control over, or environmental factors, or something that happened at home, or one day they're this way and one day they're that way, and they come in all different flavors, as I said. So you really have to basically be aware of the red flags. And that's what I'm going to talk about today, is I've flagged 4 red flags that you can watch out for. And the 4 red flags, I'll give them to you first, and then we'll go through them one by one, are chaos, no budget, cluelessness, and disrespect. And sometimes they all come in one package. And that's really bad, and that one you should not ignore, right? Those are the 4 red flags you should not ignore. I'm going to talk for each of them about what they look like, how they manifest, what could be happening on the other side that you need to be thinking about, and a few real common sense, simple ways to deal with them that you may not think of at the time because you're so focused on, oh my God, I can't believe he or she is asking me for this, right? So these are often simple, common sense things that you can do or maybe would do otherwise or could advise someone else to do, but don't because it's happening to you. And on the other hand, when you are that problem client, you know that you're so self-absorbed or anxious about what's happening because there's so much pressure out there that you can't think clearly either and you just react. So it happens on all sides. All right. So red flag number 1 is chaos. And I actually think this is the most prevalent one, and it's not getting any better. There is more and more chaos out there, not just in business. And this manifests as last-minute requests with unreasonable deadlines. How many people get that? Okay, just a few. I really think this is becoming the norm because we allow it. And it doesn't have to be this way, but I think it's important to take responsibility for as much of this as we can, because if they are chaotic and we allow them to be chaotic, then it's going to be a problem that spirals down. It could be a lack of preparation, so no creative brief, just do this, do that. It could be frantic calls from stressed out clients. It could be mixed messages coming from different people on the team who haven't communicated. It could be a lack of communication or people who don't know how to communicate very well. It could be sloppy communication. I had an example personally where someone I was interacting with over email over the course of a week in 4 distinct messages spelled my name differently each time. And I know I have an odd name, but there's something going on there when something like that happens, and I think it's worth looking at as a red flag. And so the question is, for each of these red flags, what is happening? What could possibly be happening on their end? Sometimes you really do have to stop your own reaction and think, have that question in your mind, what could be happening on the other end? So what could be happening when there's chaos is there could be external things that your contact has no control over. It's corporate chaos, and they know they're the problem, but there isn't a lot they can do about it, or they're doing their best and they just can't fix it or fix it well enough. Also, your clients' demands are unrealistic because they're being demanded upon unrealistically, and there's just all of this pressure to do more with less, and you are feeling the brunt of it. There's that. Then there's internally, right? What I mean by that is personally, the contacts themselves have very few organizational skills or self-discipline. And so these are people that you might have to be a little parental with sometimes. But I think in both situations, one of the problems is that there are no consequences. And there's no price to pay on their behalf, and so they don't change their behavior. Why should they unless you help them to change their behavior, let's say? So what can you do? For each of these, I've got 3 things you can do. You can give them structure. So by structure, I mean time frames, deadlines, give them a way that you work, give them consequences, kind of like a parent. So for example, if you are getting conflicting messages from people who are working all on the same project, insist gently that there be one single contact and everything has to go through that person. A very simple thing to do, something that some people often do, but sometimes it's too late because it's already happening and you think, oh, no, I just have to take it. The truth is you do not have to take it. Number 2 is have a process and enforce it. So this could be a process that is proprietary or trademarked or not. It's essentially your way of saying, here's how we do things. This is how we do things. I think it makes people feel very relaxed, and it makes people respect you if you insist. No, here's how we do things. No, here's how we do things. And I'm not talking about ultimatums or anything like that. I'm just saying have a process, enforce it, try to corral what's happening. And number 3, yes, but. So this is basically me saying don't be a doormat. You do not have to be a doormat. You don't have to take it. You say, yes, but. Yes, we can get that to you immediately, but not by the end of today. I could have it for you tomorrow. And sometimes they will not comply. Sometimes they'll freak out, right? Because they're under a lot of pressure. But I really do think that in very few situations, they're going to pull the whole project because you said, no, I can't have it for you today. And that's why what I hear from a lot of my clients is, no, I can't say no to any little thing because otherwise it's going to vanish. I don't think that's going to happen. Try it. All right, red flag number 2, no budget. All right. No budget could mean many different things. It could mean, although rarely does, the sky's the limit. We have no budget, the sky's the limit, right? But if you think about it, that's what it could mean. And sometimes that's what it does mean, very rarely. All right, sometimes more realistically, it means we have no idea what this could cost or should cost, right? They do not know. Now, I do think that especially with more and more technology, clients are in a position where they often have no idea what they are asking for and therefore have no idea what it should cost. So keep that in mind. Sometimes, though, we have no budget means we know this will probably cost more than we have, but can't you do it anyway? Because we're going to have a lot of work for you later on. How many people have heard that? And I rarely see that carrot dangled work materialize. So the advice, of course, is don't give in to that. And sometimes they do have a budget, but they won't tell you what it is. Don't you hate that? I hate that. And I think, to me, that is a red flag because it says this prospect or client doesn't trust that we would do the fair thing, that we would charge them what it should cost. And it can be very fuzzy, but to me, when someone says, we're not telling you our budget, that's a red flag. So what could be happening? Again, stop, don't react, think. What could be happening on their end? So when they say, we have no idea what this should cost, obviously they do not understand what's involved. They do not understand the complexity of it, and they have to justify it to themselves and to their superiors. So I'll give you a hint in the next slide for how you can deal with that. But we don't have the budget when they're dangling the future work in front of you. I think what's happening is, again, they're under a lot of pressure to do more with less, and that is flowing out onto you. When they won't tell you, to me, those are people who don't trust. They could be penny pinchers. They could be nickel and diming you. They may not value the work that you bring, the creativity that you bring to the table. And these, to me, also hardly ever work out well. So 3 things you can do with the no budget people. The first one is demonstrate what's actually involved. So this could be done in many different ways, but it is essentially an education process, and it is a marketing process, by the way. This is a lot of what you could do in your own content marketing, is demonstrate what's involved in the work that you do, so that when it comes time to work on a proposal or to pitch, then it's clear, because you've laid it out and you've presented it to them, what actually you're doing. I think also this can be done in a proposal process, whether it's done in the RFP, in text, written out, and or in your pitch or in your presentation. But to go into the details, to demonstrate what you're doing, will help them justify the price to themselves as well as to their superiors. I think also adjusting the scope of work, right? So if they don't have the money to pay for what they need, then you need to adjust the scope of work to what they can afford. And it is as simple as that. I would never recommend that anyone just drop their price. Even if what you take off is just a little thing, it's very important in the negotiation process. They will respect you more for that. And I also think as you get into a project with a client like this, when there's no budget for certain things, maybe for bells and whistles, as you get in, as you get involved, as you get to know them, suddenly sometimes more budget appears. How could that have happened? They found money somewhere. And you should know that this is one of the things that happens, so that when they say we have no budget, it may not necessarily be true. All right? So question, push back. Lobby for extra budget when the time is appropriate. All right, red flag number 3, cluelessness. right? So this is another way of saying this is basically just people who are lost. And there are a lot of people out there who are lost. And sometimes they're young people, the marketing coordinator who's just out of school, who doesn't know what they're asking for and doesn't have the experience to distinguish mediocre work from your competitor from the excellent work that you do, right? Or someone who, maybe an older person who is burnt out and tired and hasn't kept up with the technology and doesn't understand this modern marketing world or social media, and they're just clueless. And so they often will act that out on you, or you get the brunt of that. Sometimes these young people do not communicate well. Maybe they only text, they don't talk on the phone, which can be a problem. And I do think that in all of these kind of problematic client areas, communication and how people communicate and how you communicate and how you kind of talk back and forth is a very important aspect of it. And I see a lot of problems happening when all of the communication is electronic. And this was referred to earlier also about FaceTime. We talked about FaceTime. Very, very important. Or, especially with problem clients, getting on the phone, as much as you hate the idea of talking to these people, it's really the only solution sometimes to actually work things out. And by the way, you get a sense of their humanity. You get a sense of, oh, there's another person over there who's probably having a really bad day or a bad year, and there's something I could probably do to help, right? So it's really easy with this human to computer interaction, more and more of that, to forget that there's a human being on the other side. So I think that's a really important point. When it comes to the young marketing coordinator, one of the compounding problems also is that there's a senior marketing manager perhaps behind them, sitting behind what might be a glass wall. You know who they are, maybe you even had a conversation with them. And if you could just talk to them, then you would be able to, in 5 minutes, figure out what actually needs to be done instead of all this complication by the people who are clueless. So you can't really do that usually because there's a hierarchy and you have to manage the egos, but that is one of the things that compounds the problems. With both, I think, though, the main problem with the older and the younger and the in-between is that this red flag, when you notice it in advance, means that you have to budget in extra time and effort to educate these people. So what could be happening on the other side? So it's obvious that there's a younger and younger workforce. And then there's also an older workforce. So here are basically lots of layoffs and staff changes. And then suddenly no one has replaced that senior marketing manager. And now someone who doesn't really know that much about marketing is in charge of the marketing. I can't tell you how many clients have told me that their marketing contact knows nothing about marketing. So they have to bring that education to them. Right? And then no one would ever come right out and say that, but that's what they tell the consultant. So keep in mind that, again, these people, especially because they know they don't know, are under a lot of pressure. And it is incumbent upon you, if you want to do well with these people in these companies, to teach them, to help them. So how can you help them? 3 things you can do. So as I said, educate them, right? Not in a patronizing way, not in a condescending way, but share with them what you know. If this is someone who is new to the client company and you've been with them longer, take the opportunity to tell them what you know, give them the history that you've had so that they can be up to speed, for example. Gently insist that decision makers, this is especially for the young people, that the decision makers on a project are involved in the very first strategy meeting. Otherwise, you know what happens. You get to the first presentation, and that person says, what the heck is this? And you've wasted all of this time. So you can gently insist on that. And I also think it's important to think long term and make these people essentially your best friend, especially the young ones, because they will move up the ladder, and ideally you want them to take you with them. So education is one of the ways you can do that. And finally, red flag number 4, disrespect. So this is the one that kind of borders on the sociopathic grumpy, but is on this side of that line, right? Because disrespect, when it's bad behaviors from essentially good people, can be addressed if you stay calm and don't get involved in it with them. So these are people who, pick your brain maybe without wanting to pay for it. That maybe they're clients who have budget but don't want to spend it on you. They're pushing often to see how far you'll go, how much they can get from you without having to pay extra. There's been a lot of talk so far today about scope creep, right? And what do you do about scope creep, especially when it comes to interactive projects. I notice that happening more and more. This is people treating you or your employees like a pair of hands as opposed to a partner. These are people who, this is happening more and more lately, and I think it is a big deal, even though it's kind of a small thing, but unresponsiveness, right? People who do not respond to email or phone calls, and you just can't even find them, you can't reach them, and these are actual clients who you've done something for, and you can't get their feedback. And to me, this is a sign of disrespect and a huge red flag, not so much just a lack of courtesy. That's what it's been called a lot over the more recent time, but I really think it's a big red flag and something that I often don't know what to do about it, except say, no, I'm sorry, I just cannot deal with people who won't respond to me. We have to be in the conversation. And I do think also a lot of it is the fact that so much happens electronically via email, and it's just so easy to ignore the electronic. So, what could be happening, though, on that side? Sometimes these people are not responding or being disrespectful because they have very little power within their own organization to actually do anything. Think about that. What is happening on their side? Maybe they don't know the answer to the question you've asked, or maybe they're not in a position to give feedback, or maybe they don't want to tell you that they don't like it, or they don't know how to communicate that, or they don't know how to say what they would prefer. Maybe there are office politics that are happening that you're not aware of, or maybe you are aware of it. Maybe they're frustrated with their job, maybe they're having problems at home, or maybe they're just sociopathically grumpy people, or not sociopathically grumpy people. So a few things you can do. And I think here again, it's important not to react emotionally, to try to stay calm, think. You can say, I need time to think about that. Whatever their disrespect has been, hold on, I'm not taking this, give me time. Don't take it personally. So no matter what, this is a little psychological thing, right? No matter what, it has nothing to do with you. Know that it has nothing to do with you, even if they keep saying you. Whatever's happening, it has nothing to do with you. That will help you create some distance. Don't jump to conclusions about what it means. Think about what's going on for them, especially in this situation. And again, be accommodating but firm, even with the disrespect. I mean, that's when people subside into doormatness, and I think that's especially when you must not. Now, I just want to make a distinction, though, between the disrespectful and the high maintenance, right? How many people have high maintenance clients? A few, all right. I was talking a little while ago about my high maintenance client, often a drama queen, often someone who reacts impulsively or acts out on you, thinking everything is the end of the world, very manic, bouncing off the walls. I think you have to feel bad for them. I feel bad for them. This is a person who needs help, and they're probably alienating most people that they deal with. So if you could step back and listen to them and try to go to their frequency, as someone I spoke to about this said, and do whatever you can. Listen to the subtext of what really is going on underneath what they're saying, and be the person that gets them. They could become your best friend. They could become your best client because you will be the only one that takes the time and actually listens to them, and they become very loyal. Those people are extremely loyal. So keep that in mind. All right. So just bringing it to a close here, the simple solution, a little bit back to marketing, really is to avoid the problem clients wherever they are on the spectrum. I think it's important to have strong positioning so that you know who you're looking for and they find you when they look for you. Proactive marketing and a process in place for that to keep your pipeline full, and a process for weeding out these duds, which is essentially looking at the red flags. All right. I want to thank Ad Age for inviting me, and I also want to thank my illustrator, Ian Keith Murray, who supplied the illustrations for the presentation. Thank you.